new parties die or succeed, which is another interesting intersecting topic. What we're seeing in this paper is that these 4 funerals actually for this party have been relatively non-problematic. They have faced them, I would say, maybe not with joy, but certainly without any particular problem. The argument is that probably because they were congenial to the DNA of this party. So they, as we will see in a moment, they started from European federalism and other theme, and therefore their approach to global politics, European politics, media politics, and representation has been, in a sense, effective given the changes that have occurred over the last years. The party itself was established in 1955 and relaunched in 1963, so it's an old thing. We cannot say that they were forecasting or predicting all these changes, but they were congenial to the changes when they happened. Indeed, in the case of European integration, the party had been advocating for European federalism long before that became a feasible proposition. Okay, let's see what we have to say on this. Presentation is essentially based on photographs and slides. The first issue is this of the role of the media in politics, and I take for granted that we know what it is, otherwise we will need a seminar. The very effective strategy of this party regarding the media, the radicals, has been to approach presence of the media as immediately more important than presence in parliament and having MPs. They understood already, those are photos from the 70s, that to be on the media and to dismantle the state power on the media, state control of the media, was, on the one hand, an essential element of individual liberties, because democracy starts in the media, in the public sphere, does not start in parliament. And on the other hand, they have targeted this arena as more important than the parliamentary arena. Remember that this initiative started in the 60s and 70s when Italy had a state monopoly of television and radio. That was until 1976. As you can see from this historical photo, this was a very effective way of going on the media when they had 30 minutes to talk about their positions. The two leaders of the party, that's a very young Emma Bonino and Marco Pannella, they decided to go gagged for 25 out of the 30 minutes. And he said, this is the state that is preventing us from speaking, and the state is against the women, against referendum, against constitution. So women, citizens, defend your rights. This is really, all the mess in the really 70s. After 25 minutes, they took out and they started to talk, saying, it's not us who is in this situation, it's you Italian citizens, and they give us only 30 minutes once every 6 years to justify then the fact that you are always in this condition. That was, I remember I was a kid still eating with my mom and dad, and I couldn't sleep that night. Imagine on primetime television, it was at 8:30 p.m., and all the classic politicians were giving a speech or, vote for me. This was really, really perforating the video and getting to the hearts of many people, certainly mine. The second element of going into the media, we have to be careful here, is a very effective use of Gandhian non-violence techniques. And here I have a photo of Marco Pannella. This is after a third strike, so not drinking for days. Drinking his urines as only way to get some metabolism going on in his body. And this looks really drastic, but actually, if you look at the way they use non-violence, it was always for two reasons. This is a lesson for you guys that may be interested. One, use non-violence for something. The objectives of these huge hunger and thirst strikes were always very minimalistic, where we are striking to get 15 minutes of TV appearance to say something on the radio. We are striking to get judges elected to the Italian Constitutional Court. We are striking to get the parliament to consider a law on abortion or conscientious objection. So it's always for. Contrast this with many people have done hunger strikes against the tyrant. This was always for a very pragmatic, simple proposal of dialogue. Not do what we want, but please consider this, or please let us speak to people about this. And the second is always this, very important, rule of law. No matter how undemocratic the state is, the argument goes, you have to nail down the state to its own rule of law, whatever that says. So it was always non-violence used to, in a sense, nail down the state, that could be prime minister, the parliament, the authorities, to their own legislation. So those were very strong fights to get, I don't know, the parliament to respect parliamentary rules, to get the press to respect the rules of the press, to get, etc., etc. And not, for example, like Bobby Sands did in Ireland, to get, Irish freedom, something that is not contemplated by the current institutional setup. So that was very Gandhian. They did that no matter how different and authoritarian the other is, there is an embryonic element of that person in front of you that is his or her rule of law, her beliefs, her commitments, and you have to nail down them to their own ideas. I think that's a very interesting use of non-violence. Obviously, in a country like Italy that immediately, again, perforated the media, got a lot of attention. Obviously, the media in Italy are very cynical, and they started calling these guys, yes, maybe they strike, but then they drink pasta overnight, and they're very cynical. The Italians also, something you cannot take out of the Italians is the food, obviously. With all that, I think they were very effective, and they've been done also for global politics, not just for Italian politics, but we see that later. The other thing I want to say on the media is that there is something very strong in the Christian and Gandhian tradition, and also in the anarchist tradition, that is creating scandal. Scandal is a good thing. It exposes the truth. There is nothing scandalistic about the real scandal. Not Berlusconi scandals with the girls, but real, because the scandal speaks to the truth. It's satyagraha, it's research for truth. And here is four elements of big scandals created by the party in different periods of time. One was to candidate an anchor man, that one, very popular, Mr. Tortora, who was unfairly accused of being in cahoots with the mafia, the Camorra in Italy. He was proposed as a candidate for parliamentary election in Italy, in Milan. He spoke from his house. He was under house arrest. He was elected. He gave up the parliamentary immunity on the next day to stand the trial, and it was proved then innocent. At the time, all the newspapers were writing that this anchorman was connected to the Camorra and to the mafia. So by protecting the right not to be innocent, but to a fair trial, they very effectively made the problem of how unjust the Italian judiciary system was and still is, unfortunately. Still talking about the media, that's a nice episode of Going to Moscow. That's for Cato, who's an expert in Russian politics. Marco Cappato, member of the European Parliament, going there in solidarity with the International Gay Pride in Moscow a few years ago, so this is quite recent, and being somewhat beaten up by the police, but he had two mobile phones, so he managed to communicate these to Italy, and obviously he stood there as a member of the European Parliament. There's something about the right to life and termination of life, or if you want the word euthanasia. The party was very close to cases, but not the only one. This is Pietro Welby, who essentially was fighting for his right to take all this medical apparatus off his body and die peacefully. Obviously could have done it the Italian way, by paying under the table a doctor and simulating a clinical accident, or by going to Switzerland, which is very close to Italy, as you know, where all these things are legal. But again, the point was that to make it very evident